Okay. Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Arts Commission at our monthly meeting. Today is September 9th. My name is Adrielle Farr, Director of Arts and Cultural Affairs for the City of Kingston and organizer for today's virtual meeting. Before we begin our meeting, we'd like to go over a few meeting guidelines to help us navigate this system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Commission members and city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you're not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website at a later date. If you're not included on the agenda, please be respectful and courteous to our commission members by remaining muted. If you have any audio issues, please send a text message to the following number, 845-399-9072, or utilize the chat. As the organizer for today's meeting, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance Ann Bailey, Peter Criswell, Maria Elena Ferrer-Harrington, Linda Marston-Reed, Ward Mintz, and Lynn Woods. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times. And on behalf of the City of Kingston, I wish you and your family good health. I now turn the floor over to Ward Mintz, who will call the meeting to order.
Hello, everyone. I now officially call the meeting of the Arts Commission of the City of Kingston to order. Welcome, everyone. First of all, I think that they're the highest on our list for priorities is to recognize the wonderful work that Addie Farr has done on behalf of the arts in the City of Kingston, and to wish her the very best in what you choose for the remaining years. That's a lot for the next 100 years. I think it's been a good time for the arts, and the work that you did on the master plan will, we hope, live on in the best way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. It's been so wonderful to work with you all. Some of you have been here since like the very beginning. So it's really incredible to have been able to have this experience with all of you. So thank you so much for all your support over these past years. It's made this job really great.
And we can't wait to read your book.
Yes,
my experience working for the City of Kingston.
That would be an interesting read.
And Addie, I second Ward's comments and also hope that you will stay in touch with us and know you are a lifetime friend to all of us. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you. Now I just want to say congratulations to all of us on the completion of the Arts Master Plan. In so many ways, it's a dream come true, and to have had such a professional look at this, to have been able to work with people for whom this is not their first time doing something like this, who have a perspective, and I hope might be there to help us as we go over a couple bumps, would be very helpful indeed. But there's a lot to take in, and so I think that we should think about it on for our meeting agenda for a while to come. Different ways of looking at it. I think we've done some unofficial follow-up on the meeting, on the presentation last night, but I do think that we want to add to the official record that now that the plan is completed, first of all, we want to make sure that people in our worlds know that there's a plan and get a chance to read it and to be part of it. And with that in mind, is there a way for people to, or do we care? Is there a way for people to make comments or leave comments or should there be a place where people can check in? That seems to be so 21st century now, to be able to do this. I figure if the New York Times and Washington Post can do it, we should have a way too.
So kind of as I mentioned a couple times during the presentation last night, Engage Kingston is going to be the main way that you're going to be able to comment. There is a Q&A section on the website. Just kind of format, I just want to kind of dive into some stuff here. As I transition out of my position, Ruth Ann, who's been kind of, co-pilot on this whole planning project, is going to be taking over the closing out. So that includes getting everybody's feedback and coordinating what adjustments need to be coordinated with Lord, and just making sure that that is updated. So the period for public comment is open until September 22nd. You can make a comment via email, or you can use the Q&A feature on Engage Kingston. So that'll probably be the way that most folks will choose to engage. I mean, they can call as well, but I think just due to the length of the document, that's probably not ideal. So that'll be the way that we'll be collecting feedback. People are also welcome to just email Eve from Lord directly. I would personally prefer that they email Ruth Ann so that we can just vet kind of what makes the most sense and just make sure that we have everybody's feedback together. But also, Ruth Ann will be stepping in as your liaison for the Arts Commission as well until my replacement's found. So she will be your point person for all things cultural plan related and for your Arts Commission needs moving forward.
I'm just curious, when I sent you that a page and a half of suggestions on how to improve the plan, I didn't look to see whether anything happened with that.
Everybody's notes were sent to Lord directly, and then the majority of them were inputted into the plan. So.
Okay. So in other words, we should, if we are concerned about, we should really go through the plan, each of us, to see whether there are concerns still that we then should pass on to Ruth Ann. So, and we should make sure that the rest of our colleagues, like Susie, knows this too.
So the plan would be edited, or we would be adding all the comments, the feedback would be part of the package?
So, I mean, not every comment is going to be added. That's
Right.
just kind of like a fact. So we're going to look through the additions. I'm no longer the director after Friday, so I do kind of I'm allowed to provide feedback, but just kind of want to make sure that there's kind of decorum there. There's like a city staff person leading the editing process. I think the plan, especially since kind of feedback yesterday was fairly limited, folks have kind of just taken it in. I'm sure that there are some recommendations that are going to be really helpful. I think some of them are, for those of us who have gone through this entire process, we kind of heard a lot and know kind of what makes sense and what doesn't. So Ruth Ann has been on almost every planning meeting we've had with Lord. So she's been with the project from beginning to end. So she's well aware of that stuff. Relena?
Yeah, so everybody has until September 22nd to submit some comments, addition, etc. After that date, who's gonna decide which of those recommendations eventually will be incorporated or not?
It's gonna be Ruth Ann and I.
It's gonna be on Ruth Ann.
And me.
And you. Okay.
You're still going to be working for the city after the 22nd.
I'm not going to, but I just think that it would be a good idea to be able to provide some feedback on it. Again, Ruth Ann is going to kind of lead the process, but I think, I'm happy to make myself available for that. If you would like to be involved in that, that's, I'm sure, something that Ruth Ann, I don't think she would be opposed to that either. I just think that, just want to make sure that we're kind of continuing to move towards our goal of getting this plan out there. We'll see how many comments we get. There could be one or two, it could be a lot. So we'll see kind of what happens. It has to be a little bit of a flexible process.
And Susie is going to remain as chair for the of the commission.
From what I understand, that's what I've been told.
So do we
but-
want to put our comments through her, or and then go to Ruth Ann, or do you think best to go directly to Ruth Ann,
I think
copying each of us?
I think you should each approach it on your own kind of individual response to it as residents, as, you know, Kingston community members. I don't think the Arts Commission has to present like a unified suggestion for edits. I think that would probably be the way I would go about it, because some of you might not necessarily agree with one another. So that's how I would go about it. But you can discuss that with Susie, with Ruth Ann. I know you all have a connection with her. So, you know, you could maybe discuss with her about what she thinks would be best. For now, we've just kind of decided that folks should send their comments to her.
Okay, Peter.
So the 22nd is the date, last day for comments. Is there a date set in stone that's going to be like the final presentation of, or not the presentation, but the final plan?
We have to see what the edits look like.
Okay.
We want it to be as soon as possible, but, you know, we just have to see what that looks like.
The reason I'm asking that is because I'm also thinking about the calendar for the Common Council and how long it takes to get something on the Common Council. And do we want to try and get it through this year while we still have people in place here, or are we going to wait till the next year? I just think we have to think long-term for that, because it's a process to get it on their docket and
Right.
finally to get it. I mean, it could take 4 months for us to get it in front of them, get it presented, get it voted
Right.
on. You know, we could be looking at March or something like that. So,
Yeah, I think that the goal for most of us who've been working, like, you know, for on city side, we don't really want to wait longer. You know, we want this document to be out there. Now that the draft is out there, folks can still utilize some of the data, but we want the, you know, the formal adoption to happen sooner rather than later. So I think that that's one of the reasons why, you know, we've limited the time for feedback. So the goal is to be able to implement those edits and have things ready by the end of September. So fingers crossed that that's the kind of feedback that we get, that we can move forward with. So, you know, we want timelines that kind of respect that process, but that also respect our desires too, so that we can kind of get this moving, so that we don't end up in a situation where we have to wait. You know, Lord is also involved in that Common Council presentation process. So they also, I think, are kind of on the wavelength of wanting to do things a little bit sooner rather than later, just because, you know, having a project that's not going to close out until like March would probably not be ideal for them. So there are a few different factors that I think will motivate helping move things along. But again, just want to be mindful of the feedback and be you know, be kind, be open to that as it comes along, and not just kind of like scoot things. So
My highest priority, then, if you don't mind just saying this, my highest priority is to go through the plan and to detail what the expectations are of the Arts Commission in regard to different aspects of the plan, because one of the things that you'll see is that the Arts Commission is mentioned quite a bit. And so I think that we have some work ahead of us in doing this.
I would suggest, you know, establishing a subcommittee at least, just so that there's some sort of process for folks to check in on that. I know everyone's going to want to be a part of that, but I do think it might be a good idea just to kind of have some of that formal structure kind of moving forward. So that
I'm not thinking of a subcommittee right now. I'm thinking of a committee of the whole, because the Arts Commission is relatively small right now, but where it's found on our agenda every month, so that we can make sure. And if we want to meet separately, that's great too. But I do think that we and the Arts Commission need to pay attention to this. Yes, Lynn.
I mean, the Arts Commission commissioned this plan, right?
Mm.
I mean, it's the Arts Commission that is why this plan exists. So it seems to me that in the final word, the imprimatur of the Arts Commission should be on the plan, you know, since it was commissioned by the Arts Commission. But I just wanted to clarify and make sure I understand this. So the comments come in, then they're incorporated into the document. Some of them, I mean, in other words, you and Ruth Ann review it. Oh, that should be added. This should be taken out. You sort of like fine tune the edit, and then the finished document goes to the Common Council. They're not, are they required to read it, or they just, it's sort of a, by rote, they just pass a resolution saying what?
I would
Now
assume,
Kingston has an
that
arts plan?
they would read it. I would assume they would read it.
Right.
Because it's going to be, I mean, there's going to be a presentation pitching it to them, but you know, the document is available now and they've been made aware of it. So I would hope that they would take the time to read legislation that was placed in
And
front
then,
of them.
and then it becomes official that this is the Kingston Arts Master Plan.
And again, implementation can happen before formal adoption. So it's not something that we have to wait on, which I think is something that we should kind of be mindful of since there are short-term goals in there. So just something to think about, that we don't necessarily have to wait for that Common Council approval to start thinking about how to make things happen. So.
But
Right.
since
Sorry, my last comment is, so wouldn't the Arts Commission be part of that presentation to the Common Council?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think that the Arts Commission support would make a huge statement. So that would definitely be something to, you know, as you're kind of moving forward in these next couple months to think about. And again, with Ruth Ann, you know, she's been a part of the Arts Commission. So I don't think there's any plans there to not involve the Arts Commission. So, you know, Ruth Ann is always a strong champion, having been a part of the body before. So I
Right.
think that she'll definitely be able to help coordinating that. I do think that, you know, having Lord lead the presentation is also kind of critical just because they're the consultants. So that's kind of standard that they would be present for that. And I think it also shows a little bit of continuity.
Given that in my case, I sent a lot of comments, but I was never told what was accepted and what was not accepted. How do we know if we make comments on the plan now by whatever, let's say by the 22nd, whether our comments will be accepted or not accepted? Will Ruth Ann call us and discuss it? Will someone send an email? I'm very concerned that it's like that you and Ruth Ann are the potentates and that we get to say, oh, that would be nice if you chose that. No, I don't like that.
I don't think that that's been the energy of the project. There have been, I mean, even just in the latest version of the draft, there was language change that you specifically requested, like as the Arts Commission, that was incorporated into the plan. If you want Ruth Ann to contact you and let you know which one of your comments were accepted and which ones weren't accepted, I don't think that that's something that she would be opposed to. I just think that with the level of feedback that we might get, we could use the Art and Public Policy as an example. I think I received like 50 different emails with feedback for that. So at a point, someone has to kind of just go through and kind of see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I think as a project manager, sometimes you do get additional kind of, you know, privileges in respect to what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I think that throughout the entire project, I've been very respectful of the edits that you all have suggested and tried to incorporate as many of them that make sense for the project, like the Arts Hub that was put in right away. So, you know, I think that that's something that makes sense. But again, we can talk to Ruth Ann and just say, hey, you know, they just want to have some feedback on which one of their edits are being accepted or not.
Thanks. Peter?
We've also discussed many times that this is going to be a living document. So I think we need to remember that it's not going to be locked down, you know, once September 30th comes or whatever it is, that we're going to have opportunities to adjust it, change it, modify it, do all those types of things. So I'm a little less worried about that. I think that it is going to change with time because things will change around us. And so I think we need to, I think what we do need to figure out is how to address those changes as they happen, you know, whether we have amendments to this strategic plan or whatever happens there. But that I think we do need to figure out is how do we incorporate change as it occurs.
I'm just saying this because I want us, because we were so involved with this and worked very hard for it, that we are respected. You know, and that there may be changes in the future. Excellent. But I think we respect one another. I know that, and we certainly respect Ruth Ann, and we would love to have some communication. there could be, and I think that our involvement, as we said earlier, as the Arts Commission, gives us a little bit of a priority over the other people who are making comments. Anyone else? Maria Elena?
Yeah, I think that I agree with Peter. Obviously, now we are in a moment that it needs to be completed to follow the steps that are ahead. But maybe we can also decide moving forward, if we have that committee, that the suggested or whatever it is the way that we are going to implement that, we could also set the expectation of how to move forward and how to make addendums, or what is gonna be the system in place to address those changes when they are needed. I think that what is concerning to you, what I don't know, I'm speculating that is that because we don't know exactly how is the information coming and going. So far, you don't know if your comments were incorporated or not. We have to read the document, but we didn't address before, for instance, like, okay, each time that there is a comment or some sort of fix to the document, we are going to notify everybody this is what it was done, because also it's not practical at this point. We don't have like tons of people working on this and to have like a communication committee doing that. But we could say that moving forward, in case that something is going to be changed after we decided what is the final document, what the final for now. Okay, the final for now, because if next year things change dramatically, I mean, I think it will be good for everybody to know that how we're going to address that kind of thing. Know that in a year from now, we're going to start guessing, oh, and who has to do this and that. So I think that that's part of the implementation plan. And also we can see for this process, okay, what were the areas that we didn't discuss in advance? So let's try to have them there just in case to prevent, other things. And for instance, something that I can see now that maybe we didn't take in account, it was to precisely to engage with the community and to have that enthusiasm to participate even in that presentation yesterday, or in to really ask the Common Council or whoever is our council member, hello, where are you? Not to wait until the end. Oh, now is when we are going to write about this, or now is when we are going to take the community. We should have engaged with the community along the way. So I'm not giving anybody grief, but if we see that now that there is, and I agree also with Anne, and we cannot blame everything in COVID, but we cannot dismiss COVID either. So how we can keep engaging with the community, because now is when the hard part is going to start, right? And we need to be clear in what we want, and not only to meet once a month to see, oh, whoever is going to give us a report, because maybe we need to do more than just to receive a report.
Anyone else? So do we agree that for the next while, we would like to have on the agenda the master plan for the arts and how the Arts Commission will be engaging with each of the aspects that in which we were mentioned?
Yes.
And can we ask that Ruth Ann, everyone agrees? Okay. Can we ask that Ruth Ann join us at our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, that would be very, very helpful.
I suggest that everybody go back and reread everything prior to coming to the meeting, so nobody has any questions in their mind about what did or didn't get put in there. And so we'll all start like at the same baseline as we move ahead.
And I would say, having worked on master plans before, once we have this and we agree, and as Peter points out, it is a living document, we start to work on a strategy, how to do this, and assign everybody roles within the strategy.
Excellent idea.
Because we've got an incredible group of people here who are connected in all kinds of ways. So that's really what we want to go after.
Okay, Does anyone else, I have a couple more items that I would like to bring up. Does anyone have any items that she or he would like to bring up? Lynn?
I was wondering about the status of the Tubman statue. I know a couple meetings back, Ione and I had talked about reaching out to the other community groups, you know, for programming when that statue is here. And I thought we were going to do that in the fall, and it's now the fall. So I was wondering, as one way to do that was maybe writing something up, you know, about the statue coming and talking to Margie at the library, you know, having a document that everyone at the commission would approve, and then sending it out to all the different groups would be a way to start the process. Does anyone have an opinion about that? You know, just letting people know the statue's coming, here's where it's going to be. And we're looking for, you know, participation by different groups all across the city to, because we talked about this, doing programming, having an event around this statue. So I'm just wondering if a way to expedite that, rather than just picking up phone calls or talking to people that you run into, you know, just doing some kind of introductory like email or something that would be sent out to people.
Do you think it should be an email or a press release, Lynn?
Or maybe a press release is better, actually, but the press release goes to the press, not so much to, a press release could go to the press and anybody, I guess.
Well, I would say internally too, there are different organizations that can get this out. I know the Midtown Arts District talked about doing programming around the statue. So that's probably already in conversation. I imagine the library wants to do some things too. I think there are others that were interested as well. Harambe. Yeah, Peter.
Somebody approached me from UU Catskills about a project that they know of, which is a George Floyd quilt project. And it's a touring project. And I thought, wow, it would be really interesting to have the Harriet Tubman statue outside the library and the quilt inside the library, because there's then this historical connection. There's a timeline there. And I would like to just put it out there. Maybe that's something that we figure out how to sponsor it. I think it's a similar type of thing. We'd have to figure out the transportation. I don't have any costs or anything like that yet, but I love the idea of like the thread going through to.
I like that too.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
If this is interesting, I'll present more information about this to the commission at the next meeting.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yes, I think we're all interested.
Great.
Right. So, well, what I'm wondering is, first speaking to Margie, and maybe someone at Matt, I just think it would be helpful to get the word out while there's still a lot of time.
Absolutely.
And all these different nonprofits involved with community arts. And so would you like me to compose something and then send it around and see what everyone thinks after I talk to Margie?
I'm not sure, but I think that a couple of meetings before this one, there was like a discussion of who were going to be in charge of that. So I would assume that the people that were selected to do that are talking about that. So I don't remember right now. Maybe we should review the minutes, because I think that was addressed before.
Well, I know that Ione talked about it, and then I offered to work with Ione.
Yeah.
That was my memory of it.
Anyway, I will review the minutes and then follow up with that. Because
So I will
definitely we need to do
I'll
something.
wait till you do that before I do anything.
So do you
Yes,
think
Linda?
I think it might be helpful to, since Lynn, you're going to write something up, I think this would be a really good way to invite all of the community to consider programmatic proposals that go around having this. So people feel, I mean, there's all kinds of people probably that would be interested in this that we may not know about. So I want to make sure that people feel like they can participate and they can bring an idea to the table. And that's another good way for us to begin to collaborate, which was mentioned in our plan, you know, begin to collaborate more with grassroots communities that we don't usually see.
Well, I mean, I think that's the idea. And maybe the note would take the form of invitation.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That's my idea. It's not just saying, here's the statue. It's saying, hey, here's what's happening. And the Arts Commission is inviting you, we really want to have a full, every group represented, and here's, if you have ideas for programming, let us know. I mean, I think we should coordinate it. But
So,
that's the idea of it.
Lynn, I'm going to bring this up at the next executive committee meeting for the Midtown Arts District. We have representatives on our board from Harambe, Midtown Rising, the Draw, obviously, and Transart. So they all have a vested interest in the statue and participating in some way. So let me bring it to them and see what they say. And then at our next meeting, let's make sure it's on our agenda. The statue's due to come in the spring, I think. Is that right?
I thought it was November.
This
I thought it was,
No,
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 next
no,
year.
Next year.
Jeez,
Next
I
year.
was gonna say, oh my God.
I'm just bringing it up now because we had talked about
Yeah.
starting the process in the fall. That's why I'm bringing it up. There's
Yeah.
plenty of time.
Yeah, there's a lot of time here.
Was a decision made on the location? Because I know Ione was hoping for Broadway, and Peter, I know you talked about the library. I didn't know if a decision was finally made.
I don't think it was, no, as far as I know.
So we have to also work on that.
So maybe I'll wait until all these things are in place. We know you've
I'm
talked to.
putting it on the agenda, the Midtown Arts District, because as I said, we have 4 members of the board that have vested interest from their other affiliations with the statue. And I think it'll be really important to hear what they have to say about it.
Absolutely. All right, so I'll wait on that.
Yeah.
I know that Ione had very strong feelings about the location. Does anyone else have strong feelings about, let's say if there are these 2 locations, which one it should be? Peter?
I was just curious about the burial ground on Pine Street, I don't know what their space is like, and they have an indoor space now, right? I haven't been
Yes.
into it. Maybe that
You
would
want me to talk to Frank about that?
I wonder, I think it makes sense in some ways. I don't know about traffic wise, would it get the traffic and the visibility that we want? That would be my only curiosity.
Well, yeah, that's always the issue. I think what we were talking about earlier was the significance of the statue and making sure it was in a really prominent space. And that's why we wanted it on Broadway. It was kind of part of that arts corridor that we've been building or thinking about anyways. It's in the process of being created. And that is something I didn't see in the report, which I wished I had seen, because a lot of us had talked about this corridor. I know there was an Arts Hub reference, but if you talk to Drew and you talk to UPAC and you talk to Radio Kingston, who's also building a theater there, there's a lot of, Drew with the CCE and then Draw and MAD, and there's just this collection of stuff that's going on along there. And Broadway now being revitalized and renewed and refreshed, it might be a wonderful place to have it in DLP, Deep Listening Plaza. Since we worked so hard to get that plaza, the commission was a part of that, remember, getting that little pocket of, space, pocket park. So
if I were to say now, do you think we should now make a get together and say we are in favor of putting the statue here versus there, or do you want to wait till another meeting to do that? Maria Elena wants to wait.
yeah.
I think that we should review the minutes, because it seems to me that we are discussing things that were already discussed, and that will prevent us to move forward if we don't follow up in what we agreed.
What I seem to remember, but you're right, Maria Elena, we should look at the minutes.
And also, I'm concerned that the time is going by, and I did say that the agenda for today was already packed, and on top of that, we have different subjects that the board wanted to bring. So I don't want to be rude, but we can address this in the next agenda because I know that the statute is for next year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to just put it in the backlog. It's just that we can include that for the next agenda already. So we know that it's there and we will review the
Do
notes.
some fact finding. in the
So we all
meantime.
agree that this will be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Crack that whip, Maria Elena.
Pardon?
I said, crack that whip. Get us moving.
Addie, I was wondering, I know you will not have anything to do with this. I was wondering if you had a recommendation on how we should be involved in the creation of the job description for your successor.
My job position has already been posted, has been for 2 weeks now. So that post went up. There was a press release that went out about my position. It was in a few different publications, so that was interesting. So that has been up on the City of Kingston website. So we have received a couple of applications, but if you know anybody who is interested in applying, please encourage them to apply as soon as possible, because I know they're really trying to find someone sooner rather than later. The city hiring process can be a little drawn out. I also think that, you know, one of the large recommendations I've made to the mayor is that when he has, you know, kind of gone through and, you know, I'm providing some feedback about who would probably make sense, having worked the position for a couple years now. So I'm providing a little feedback on that, and then definitely told the mayor that he should utilize the Arts Commission, since this person will be working closely with you all and being your liaison. So he's definitely well aware that when he gets to, you know, when we've kind of picked out, I think we got about, I think it was 14 applications so far. There were some more, but they didn't meet the qualifications. So I would encourage anyone you know to apply for the position. And then when the time comes, when we get a little farther along in the selection process, definitely have encouraged him to involve the Arts Commission in it.
Could you do us a favor and send us a copy of the press release, please?
It's in the chat.
What's the deadline, Addie? For
The deadline, so all of this stuff is run through civil service. So, you know, as you know, there are kind of a pretty intense cycle here when it comes to hiring. It's not like, you know, the private sector. So the deadline has already passed, but since my position is a non-union position, you know, Mayor Noble has extended it a little bit just in case there are any more applicants that want to come forward, and not making it a closed application process, just to allow the right candidate, you know, to make their will be known. So the press release did not have an application. The city posting that went up on the city website did have a deadline on it. So the deadline was supposed to be August 31st. But again, since it's not a union position, we don't have as many restrictions. But again, would definitely encourage, if you know someone who's interested, I had sent out a few feelers for spokes, would definitely do that sooner rather than later.
I tried to do the chat and I couldn't open up the document. So if you wouldn't mind sending us sending it in an email, I would be very grateful.
Okay, there are two there's a link just to the employment listing. And then there's a PDF.
I tried to open the PDF. I
It's
couldn't.
the link to the website. The PDF is on the website. So it's a link.
Yeah. So it's just
If I click on that, it takes me to the.
That's why I'm saying that we're
Okay,
going
I
to
will
spend the
try
rest of the
to.
meeting talking about our inability to
I will
get
send it to you
information.
on an email.
Okay. Thank you for that. The other thing that I was wondering is whether, now that we have a master plan for the arts, and we are about to, we hope, welcome a new director of arts and cultural affairs for the city, whether the Arts Commission itself should be thinking about its long-range plan. In other words, what we see as our next major responsibilities.
Something I've suggested a couple of years is something that I do for my department that I think would be really helpful. At the end of every year, we do a departmental review of what we've achieved in the year. And at the end of that review, our goals for the next year are also included. I think it would be helpful for the Arts Commission to maybe put something like that together, just so that you have kind of like a written document that you can refer back to as new members join the commission. I think it'd also be helpful for them. You know, we just kind of start out with a mission statement, just a brief overview of what we've done, and then really focus on kind of laying out strategies and goals for the next year.
Everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
Linda?
One of the things we do at Arts Mid-Hudson is we have the board, they call it their scorecard. And it's very much what Addie is talking about, coming up with goals, not only for yourself as a board member, but also as a team of what you want to accomplish during the year. And so it's really good to pull those out and look at them quarterly. But again, at the end of the year, you can look at it and get a good sense of what's possible, you know, when you're working as a volunteer team that meets once a month, but also what's possible for you yourself to accomplish in this role.
What's the staff's involvement with that, Linda?
The staff, it's mainly driven by the staff. So for instance, when the budget is cast or when the board gets a first look at it, you know, they see, oh, we'd really like to launch a new program and it involves this much budget and this, and it would need some support. So, you know, they're looking at things like that.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping that you would say. Because no, because I do think, you know, we're volunteers and we meet once a month, and and to have some help with that would be extremely important. And it's something that when we get a new director of arts and cultural affairs, that we should raise this issue again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a key linchpin right there, is we've got to have that person as the communicator and the bridge.
I'm putting together a departmental guide for the next person that comes in. And of course, we're just going to have pretty constant communication. So that's something that I can put on their radar. I will say that the next person that's going to be stepping into my position is going to have a pretty hefty list of things to be taken care of. And as somebody who's, you know, served in this position for the past 3.5 years, even at a full-time level, there are some moments where, you know, it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially now that my position manages and maintains filming and film permits for the city, which has become a huge responsibility. So I do also just kind of want to, you know, with all of the onboarding that comes along, just want to also kind of be mindful of that person as they step into this position. Is just going to be kind of taking a lot on. I think one of the things that we've kind of adjusted is just, you know, ensuring that the Arts Commission is now responsible for their minutes and for their agendas, so that the person who's stepping into my position doesn't have to do that right away. There isn't currently any other city staff personnel that manages that actually produces those documents for other commissions. So just wanted to put that on your radar, that that's something that's in the departmental guide. But I'm also, you know, I think that, you know, some of your first meetings with this person and kind of, you know, developing that workflow with them. Like I said, I think the big challenge is going to be kind of tackling filming as it comes in. But then of course, this Arts and Culture Master Plan implementation is probably going to be the priority of the incoming director. So I just think underlining the Arts Commission's role in that, and kind of maybe putting that idea of this departmental review or goals or that kind of thing in the section of the cultural plan might be kind of helpful. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot to take on as the person comes in. So
what happened, Addie, didn't you have an intern who was working with you?
Yeah, they were an unpaid intern.
How did that work?
I mean, interns can only kind of do so much. And I think that for the cultural plan, there wasn't necessarily very much that they could take on in terms of being able to manage anything. I think an intern for the department would be really helpful. But I do think that an intern is a job in and of itself. So it is an additional individual that you have to manage. So I think for a new person coming in and learning the systems, they could probably get an intern set up for 2022 early in the year, but I think it might be a little bit challenging to take that on right as they step in. But definitely think an intern would be incredibly helpful for things like exhibitions, perhaps kind of helping with the flow for that. Maybe with some website management. That's a little tricky just because of our policy for how things are updated, but there are a few things that I think they could help out with. I had a great time with my intern, but again, they were a student and their priority is school, which is they're paying for. So, you know, we don't offer paid internships at the city. So, you know, there were definitely a few times where they just had to prioritize school. And as somebody who's worked as an unpaid intern many times, I encourage them to focus on school versus, you know.
Lynn?
I think the last meeting we talked about how you could really use a part-time person helping you out.
Yep,
A
that's something that's been requested, but it has to be approved in the budget cycle. So, yeah.
Anne?
It's my observation that filming is growing a lot in this area and is being promoted as well. And I actually think it's unfair that the permitting is being dumped on the Arts Commission, Arts and Cultural Director. You're there to direct arts and culture, not to permit things, which is a tedious task. And I would like to see if there's any other department that could help with that.
You mean like an economic development department?
Yeah, you know,
I doubt that would happen. Just because I think, you know, there are a lot of department heads at the city that deal with permitting. So that's not a rare thing. And that's the only permit that my department manages. So I'm not 100% sure. I think also just in terms of kind of like the style of having to communicate with these people, you know, it is, I think that the argument is that it does fall under arts and culture because it's film. So, you know, we do get support from the mayor's office in processing these things, but I just kind of want to suggest that, you know, that's definitely a conversation that's been had. And this is kind of the system that we have for it right now. So, you know.
What percentage of your time would you say is devoted to the permitting?
I would say probably about like 35, 40, something like that. But with the Arts and Culture Master Plan, of course, that's been the majority of my time over the past year and a half, almost 2 years.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Well, I mean, permitting for public art was supposed to be running through my department too, and all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, I definitely think that just in terms of kind of city responsibilities, I doubt that would be shifted. So I do just think that that's something that will probably remain the same, unless there was a new position created perhaps, but I doubt that would happen.
The next question, the next thing that I'd like to raise for the agenda is the status of new commission members. Anyone have any knowledge about people who have been interviewed, applied? Anne?
I've asked 2 people to apply. I think that it's only right that all of us, as we're retiring, that we pick someone that we think really would be great on the commission. So I've asked 2 people to apply. I said to Susie, I wouldn't leave my actual seat until, and she said, you can't do it that way. You really have to retire first and then they can fill your seat. So it's kind of a dilemma, but I definitely want to stay advisory and stay active. So the people I recommended, I don't know if you know, Lori Ostrovsky was one of the people, And I've worked with her at UPAC. We're working on a DEIA plan for the theaters right now. Drew, Laurie, and a few other people, Maggie Inge from Transart and from MAD, and a few others are working on this. And I found her to be, she's young, she's very organized. She's very forward thinking. She moved to Kingston. She's a very creative person. She works with a lot of creative people and thinks creatively about things. And she's executive in her function. That's one. And the other is Lisa Kelly, who Ione also recommended to join the council. She's got her pulse on a lot of things. She's younger. Again, we have to think of this next generation of leaders that we need to shape and mentor and bring along. And that's why I want to stay involved. We worked awfully hard. I see the core group. Many of you are still here from the very beginning, 10 years ago, when we really just began to talk about this. It was just a little tiny seed in the ground. So those are the two, and I assume that they may have applied, and Addie would know about that. So.
I was actually kind of curious, how have you dealt with appointments in the past? How have you decided who?
The mayor decided. So
well, the mayor received recommendations from, I think, Ward, just they gave us suggestions. So did you do a voting process in the past? Is there something we can kind of go back and draw on as we go into these next couple steps?
Maria Elena?
Well, I have asked that several times, and the last response that I got from Susie was that we don't have a say, that we can submit a recommendation, but it's on the mayor.
Right. So I think that it would definitely be a good idea to submit some recommendations. So if you want to coordinate with Susie and just see who has applied, who you
It should be Susie who I think, who should submit them. I mean, it would seem to me, but if she won't, then one of us, will step in. I've been talking to a person who none of you probably know, who's thinking of going on the Arts Commission. His name is Richard Frumes. Watch out.
Yeah, I think that and I'm not sure if it was on the agenda or not. I think it was, because precisely that was part of the question in the agenda that Susie sent. It was about new members, and I was asking if those new members were already selected, because we were like, I understand that is a decision that the mayor makes, but I thought that at least we could have a conversation of who they were, or I don't know what it is. But Susie said that she had interviewed, I think, 3 people. I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3. And
I think she said 3.
3, right? Yeah. But, it's sort of, I don't know. I think that we need to fix some communications issues here, because we are not all on the same page. And I think it's important to have the board on the same page, at least in the same book, if possible, and to know at least what is going on,
How would you recommend we do that, Maria Elena?
Well, I think that we should have those conversations like we are having it right now. And if something is happening, we should at least more than only one person know what's going on.
Well, that's why I think that these have to be on the agenda. These
exactly
items
should be in the
need to
agenda.
continue on the agenda.
Or at least 2 or 3 members of the commission knowing what is going on, the same way that we can decide committees for things, there is always 2 or 3 people, because we know that we cannot tax only one person to do absolutely everything. That's true. We are volunteers, and also we have lives and things happen. Right? So if you have 2 or 3 people in charge of something, you have more probabilities of having somebody giving back to the rest of the group. So we know what's going on. But if everything is only in one person, and we are like, right now, like trying to guess because that person is not in the meeting. So I think that that's something that would be great to have addressed, at least even if in an email, so we know what is going on.
I think that this has, Lynn.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with that. And I know that at the last meeting, like I suggested Julio Nazario We talked about names kind of casually, but it would be nice if, I guess it would be Susie, were to say, okay, here are the people that we're talking to, just so we all know what's going on, because some of, we did recommend names.
Did
Yeah, I
you
didn't
tell,
approach it.
but Lynn, did you tell Julio to apply?
I didn't approach him.
That's
but
what you should do now.
I spoke with Julio and told Isabel, because when I spoke with Julio, he said, oh, that's with Isabel. I said, but Isabel is already known, so talk to her. So I asked Isabel, I'm still waiting for her answer.
Okay, so you approached them. Okay, good. I didn't, and I'm glad you did.
Anne,
So it wasn't clear to me either on the terms. And I know that I've been on the commission from the very beginning. I think my second term ends this November. And that was supposed to be my full time, and that I shouldn't be reelected to the commission. So I think we need to look at the terms and the term limits in our bylaws. I know they were written, so I'd like to see that presented. I'd like to know that a transition is possible, so that if 3 or 4 people are being interviewed and potentially 2 or 3 people are transitioning off, that we can work this in a very smooth way and follow our bylaws and follow the guidance as it was written.
Peter.
So,
For my board of directors, I always have their names and then their term and when their term is up. And so it's very clear right next to it. You can see
it's
exactly
really
when
important
people
thing.
and what number of term they're in. So it's all clear. So we could do that very simply.
And I think other commissions do that for the city. Like, I think if you look at other organizations for the city of Kingston, it says that.
Yeah, we have the Mayor's Secretary Roy keeps a running list of everyone's term. And anybody who's ever reached out to me to ask about their term limits, that's the document that I refer to. So
I think we all need to look at it for sure.
Also,
Yeah.
Adi, you recommended me to talk to the clerk to ask for because when the commission was created, apparently in that, I don't remember the name of that thing.
The bylaws.
The chart, I'm not sure if it's a bylaw or not, or it's a chart or what it is, but we should have something with a minimum of rules. And that's been a I don't know what are the rules, because each time that I ask thing, the response that I get is like, well, we may, I don't know, in regard to that. So I haven't had the time to stop by the city to talk to the clerk, because I would like to see that thing. I would like to see we have bylaws, and maybe that's something that also we can take a look on that and know exactly what it is. Because and I assume that's my responsibility, because I should have that document, but I haven't had the time to get it yet.
I was just thinking about that, I'm pretty sure that when I started, I got like a file sent over to me that had a lot of that information in it. All the bylaws are, you can reach out to the clerk for them, but I can also look through my files and see if I can find that on my end. But I think I got like a large file transfer when I started that had all of that information in there.
If you can't find them, I'll look in my files.
That might be helpful.
So it is 3 years term, and the word X mean that expires?
Yeah, so that would be the date of your expiration. So.
But my expiration cannot be September 2020. I
would like not to discuss each of us and what our status is right now, if that's all right.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. Does anyone have anything more? I'd like to, by the way, ask that we approve the minutes from the last meeting. Thank you, Linda, for raising this issue. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. All in favor. Any other items for discussion now? What I would like to see is that many of the things that we discussed tonight remain on the agenda for the future, that they don't get lost. And so I will ask, I'm not your chair, but I think all of us should kind of remember this and hope for this as we go forward, because I think it will make us a more effective group if we do that. Okay. And Lynn, if you are writing about the master plan for the arts, and I just want to, on behalf of the commission, your colleagues, say that I'm sure that all of us would be happy to talk to you about the plan.
I'm going to send an email to the editor. And I know the deadline would be like September 24th. I mean, there could be a series of articles, I realize this is an ongoing issue, but this is definitely a time where it would be appropriate. So I will email the editor and then get the assignment, and then I'll email the whole commission and just say, and I definitely would want to talk to you, Addie, so I'm glad you'd be available the next couple of weeks. And then whoever would like to speak, I would be happy to interview them.
And then you can,
I'll be approaching this objectively as a reporter, not as a commission member.
And you can go to the chair of the Common Council and say, so what are your feelings? How are you going to be involved?
That's kind of my plan. No, that's my plan. I would call the mayor and a couple of Common Council people. No, absolutely.
Great. Excellent.
So Addie, can I just, sorry, Ward.
No.
Thank you for putting in the chat all the terms. And it's really interesting to look at it because there's several of us that term out in September of 2022, 4 of us, I think I just saw. So we really have to think about that long-term of whether we're going to stay on or not stay on, or whether we're going to try and find replacements. That's a lot of people that's almost half the board, more than half the board that you're turning over in one fell swoop. So
it's very important. Thank you, Peter, for raising that.
And when we made the original contract, we need to look at what we wrote in as far as terms go. In other words, whether you could have 2 terms or 2 terms of 3 years, or, there were very specific ways that we address this. So we should visit that. We should look at that.
Okay, and let me suggest also that if one of us gets to the bylaws, the law, whatever it's called, first, feel free to send us an email with what the answer is. Sure. That would be great. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank Addie again for all of her good work, and wish you the very, very best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm actually studying Danish to be able to discuss things with you in the future. Again, thank you, and have a great rest of your week and weekend.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ward. Goodbye, everyone. See you
Goodbye.
soon.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Adi. We are gonna miss you.
Oh, miss you too. All right, bye everyone.
Goodbye.